Site CasinoRadio1063.com.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Good morning and welcome to Coast Vue. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. I have a great guest today, but first let me say I was so thrilled to have Bill Luckett yesterday, partners with Morgan Freeman on the Ground Zero Club. We talked about so many amazing things, the connection between the blues music and the rest of the world, and they're right there in Ground Zero. They have their Ground Zero Club, which is going to be open in Biloxi, their first sort of foray outside of Clarksdale, Mississippi to Biloxi. It's going to be exciting because they're going to be bringing some of the we're talking traditional blues. They'll be bringing them to coastal Mississippi. And 50% of the people who go to the Ground Zero Club today come from all around the world, Europe and Australia mostly. It's incredible. We are on the international map, and the more we can put Mississippi there, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Hey, listen, I talk about big tech developments on Coast Vue a lot. I don't do these national issues. If you're a regular listener, I don't do them too often. But as it relates to big tech, I'm concerned about the fact that they continue to go forward sort of unchecked by regulation. I think, I'm not a big regulation guy. But as it relates to things like big tech, I think we need regulation. I'll explain to you a little bit more about why I feel that way. But as you know, I came from the media industry. I spent a career, especially the latter part of my career, involved in some groundbreaking digital media efforts. And I developed a pretty good understanding, and I developed a pretty good concern about privacy on the internet. That's a really important subject these days. There's an enormous amount of our personal data that's being gathered by the big tech companies like Facebook and Google and Apple and Amazon and others. There's a lot of them, but the big ones are doing it in a very big way. I actually reported last week that Facebook is the 5th U.S. big tech company to become part of what we call the $1 trillion club. Now, essentially what you do is you take the number of shares outstanding that the public can buy, you multiply that times the current market value, excuse me, of the stock, and what you get is the market capitalization of the company. So there are now a number of companies, all big tech companies, that are in the $1 trillion club. How did they get there? Well, our personal data, your personal data, my personal data, our guest's personal data is more valuable than oil. I mean, think about that for a minute. I've said it before, but the way I'd like to characterize it is that we're in a personal data pandemic these days. The evolution of data companies and big data companies, I believe, has been a real destabilizing factor to our society. There's incredible examples all around the world of some really bad things happening as a result of social media. And I think it's very troubling. The level of precision that they have these days to literally purely exploit what is our human psychology on their platforms is literally mind-boggling. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend watching the documentary series that's on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. It spells it out. It's something you really ought to pay attention to. But there's a reason that our data is worth more valuable than oil these days. It's based on an advertising platform. This valuation is based on an advertising platform that uses artificial intelligence and algorithms to do very sophisticated targeting of ads. I mean, really, it's incredible what they can do. And it's brilliant what they can do from an advertising platform point of view. Really important. And they use artificial intelligence to do that. But this ad platform has what is called unintended consequences. They also use that ad platform and our personal data to determine what our social media feeds need to be. So what it does is it makes it appear that everyone in your social media feed agree with you. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all for our democracy or for society. So anyway, there's a lot of effort underway to understand what they're doing. But at the end of the day, we're being manipulated like never before, and it's mostly unregulated. And if you think about the amount of money that big tech's spending on lobbying efforts, for example, I don't see Congress getting to the bottom of it anytime soon. It's really, really complicated. I want to remind you real quick what some of the personal data is that they have. Of course, they have your personal information, which is your name, your gender, your date of birth, contact information, location and address. I mean, obviously this tracking software in your phone that follows you around. They know they know where you go and what you do and when you do it. Your relationship status, are you single, are you married, work status and income level, education background, ethnicity, religious and political beliefs, especially religious and political beliefs these days, unfortunately. Facial recognition data. When you use facial recognition to get into your phone, that data is stored by Apple. Think about that for a second. Financial and banking information. You wouldn't think that that's there, but it's there. You give them credit card information when you do purchases at the iStore, etc. IP address. Each device you use, whether you use an iPad, an iPhone, a computer, has a unique address just to that device. That's an IP address. So if you go to the internet using more than one device, there's going to be more than one IP address associated with you. They know that information. Whatever communications that you're doing, they know that. Calendar, events, search history. They know everything you do, when you do it. They know the media that you consume. They know if you don't use search and you just go web browsing, they know everything. Social media behavior. Listen, the list goes on and on. It really does go on and on. But by using their free social media site, or by going to do a free search from Google, you're giving them the permission then to be able to collect all this information and data. It's a real problem. Now, by the way, I just read a story this morning that said that TechCrunch, on TechCrunch.com, that a group of 37 attorneys general have filed which is a real important lawsuit because it's bipartisan, a multi-state antitrust lawsuit against Google. It's saying that if you go to their app store, if you're using their technology, that you're forced to use their technology and pay accordingly. And it also says that Google is squeezing the lifeblood out of millions of small businesses that are only seeking to compete. You combine with all the other lawsuits that are out there, we're not going to be able to get the solution from Congress. What we're going to get the solution from is from the attorneys general. Hopefully that creates clarity about where regulation can be. It's really important. I can't help but think about Elon Musk. He said that we need an FAA for big tech as it relates to artificial intelligence. Why not? I mean, the reality is that utility companies are regulated, and why shouldn't we have utility-like regulation, or regulatory body of big tech? I think the sooner we have that, the better. Anyway, speaking of utilities, I'm really proud to be a Coast Electric customer. I've been one since 2001, but I'm pleased to have my dear friend. I've worked with him in the community for so many years. I don't want to say how long, actually, Ron, but the CEO of Coast Electric, Ron Barnes. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Ricky. How are you?
I'm doing great. You live in a regulatory environment, don't you? I mean, and it shapes you. You're able to be successful as a business in a regulatory environment. It's just kind of the way it is for your industry, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There are certain things that we have to make sure that we're looking out for the public interest in addition to the interest of our own business, and it works pretty good.
Yeah, I know it. I know it does. I hope we can. I know that we're at the forefront of a lot of the stuff that I'm saying about big tech. It's been coming on strong for years. It's really coming on strong these days. And, I hope that we can find, technology, man. Technology is where it's at. I mean, I talk about all the hacks that are happening, around the world, particularly in the U.S. these days. I mean, companies like you're very technology dependent. You spend a lot of time thinking about how to make sure that your technology is secure, don't you?
We do. And really everything in our business now runs, what I like to say is it runs through our IT department. Whether it's reading our meters, the way that we dispatch or get power dispatched to us, the way that we communicate with our members, the way that we, the that our members pay us. Everything runs through technology.
Yeah, and there's no looking back. I used to say
really not.
when I became a CEO of a company, I had the opportunity. It was the same parent company, but different. But I was different CEOs of several different companies later in my career. And with the first, I used to say that when I come into a new company, I want to know the personnel director and I want to know the CFO. That's the two I want to get the closest relationship with. Later in my career, it was still the CFO and the HR director, but also wanted to know who the IT director was. Because not only in terms of how we run the business, but because we were in a digital world, it was really important to have those kind of close relationships. You've seen the same kind of evolution in your business, haven't you?
We have. In fact, I would 100% agree with you. When literally everything in your business runs through your IT department, you better have a good relationship there. And I'll give you just a real quick story, Ricky. Somebody asked me why I couldn't access a particular website because I was the CEO. And I said the CEO can make just as much of a blunder when it comes to cybersecurity as any other employee. So I want to have the same, controls on my computer that I would ask any other person in our organization to do. So yeah, it's good to have that relationship, especially when everything runs through that department.
Yeah, I had a cybersecurity expert on recently, and they said vulnerabilities are in the oddest places. You don't think of it this way, but an administrative assistant can create a vulnerability. I mean, you don't think of a vulnerability that could really take a business down being something that an administrative assistant could do. So everyone in the company has to be connected and has to be careful. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Ron Barnes, the CEO of Coast Electric. We're going to talk about the pandemic, how's business these days, how do they do in the aftermath of Zeta. He's also the incoming chairman, or actually the current chairman of the Coast Chamber. We'll talk about that as well. We'll see after this break.
AllenToyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on AllenToyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I have my friend Ron Barnes, who's the CEO of Coast Electric, with us today. I really enjoyed the opening segment, Ron. Look, there's a lot of places to start, but I want to just remind people something, and I mentioned this kind of briefly at the beginning, but you and I have worked in so many different ways over so many years, whether it would be United Way, the Chamber, I don't know what all. I mean, we've crossed each other's paths so many times in the community. What drives you? What keeps you after all these years? I don't even know how many years it is. 40 years? How long have you been working in the community?
Oh, I would say 35 years, which is how long I've been out of college.
That's incredible. That's incredible. But
Yes.
what drives you? Where does that, you're the current chairman of the Coast Chamber. What is it that keeps you going? What is the message you want to give to other young people and maybe not so young people who are considering getting involved in the community?
Well, we live, work, play in this community. And so I think that maybe it's a higher calling for me to be able to give back to those that have given so much to me. Really none of us, Ricky, get to any successful place in life without a lot of people. And look, there are mentors, there are mentors along the way that really helped me. So it's really for me just about the drive to want to make our community better. I wanted to make it a better place for not only my children, my employees' children, people that I don't know.
Yeah.
A good, strong community really selfishly makes a good, strong business. Businesses thrive when communities are strong.
Yeah. You're so right about that. When you mentioned mentors, all kinds of thoughts came to mind for me. But, I was lucky because Roland Weeks was the president and publisher of the Sun Herald as I was coming up in my career. I often say that he identified me long before I realized I had the capabilities, but he saw things in me. He put me in charge of a division of the company when I was like 25, 26 years old. You just don't do that back in the 80s when he did that.
That's right.
But the fact is, I think about Roland and what he said to me, and it's the same thing that your mentors would have said to you, and that is that the more we're involved in the community, the way he would say it is, as a president publisher of the Sun Herald, you wear three hats. One is you have the fiduciary responsibilities of the company, the financial health of the companies. Two, you're a community leader.
Yeah.
And three, you're the publisher of a newspaper, with the First Amendment responsibilities, the ability to sort of speak out editorially, so on. And that oftentimes those three hats are going to be in conflict with each other. You just have to sort of live with those conflicting objectives. You know what I mean as a CEO. You have to live at times with conflicting objectives.
That's right.
But he said this, the thing he said the most, and you can comment about this, is that the extent to which you are involved in the community, he really pressed me early in my career to be involved in the community. The more you're involved in the community, the more diversity there is in your involvement in the community, the more you're going to be able to determine whether the newspaper is reflecting the needs of the community.
Absolutely.
And I never saw that play out more so than after Katrina and all that muscle flexing, as John Harrison puts it, that I did long before Katrina. It sort of came to bear in that moment of Katrina where I could know who to get involved in the communication and so on. But you had similar experiences along the way, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Back to mentorship, as a young professional, I think that having a mentor is the ability to have someone look, there were people that did the exact same thing for me. They recognized talent I probably didn't know I had in myself. And so, I was given leadership roles very early, but I also was given the responsibility that, hey, you got to do something and you got to pay it forward. To me, the way to pay it forward was to be involved in things that weren't just selfish for myself, but gave back to others. I guess, Ricky, for me, it's really from my Christian values. You know, you give away love, you give away yourself, you get a whole lot more in return. I didn't do it for that reason, but I've always gotten back more than I've given.
I wrote a note to Kim Dillon, the president of SuperTalk, and Steve Davenport, who owns SuperTalk and it's Mississippi Media. So it's 12 stations and 26 radio stations and in the company across the state. I wrote a note to him over the weekend. And it's probably the second or third time that I thanked them for giving me the opportunity to do Coast Vue, because, you know, in my fast-paced life before, I didn't get a chance to really dive deep into specific people to understand what motivates them. And it's a gift that's been given to me, the opportunity to do this show, the opportunity to share your story and people like you. So many people I've had on the show, we would have never known who they were. They're quietly just doing their thing. They're driving by, as you pointed out, their Christian values. They're driven by this need to want to make a difference. They're wanting to set an example that others can follow. But to me, that is so darn inspiring, man. And I know you see that in all of your work. You go back at all the years you've been involved. You know, after Katrina and the work that we did after Katrina, everything that we've done, you have been touched, I'm sure, countless times from people you would have never known probably had you not been involved in the community.
Absolutely. In fact, I still have, I have a real passion for mentoring young people. I really like to see young people, and I hate to say this because I guess I'm getting old now, but a lot of the young people that I mentored are now mentoring young people themselves. And that's always meant so much to me, to be able to see someone's career take off and do well, and to just feel like you had just a very small part of that. You know, it's kind of what drives me to you know, look, you can only have so much success financially. The human being wants to be able to succeed in other ways. For me, that success was to share myself with others and share, you know, the resources of our companies with others as well, and just give back to to those that are less fortunate. And it's not always those less fortunate. Again, good, smart community involvement is good for the community. It's also good for Coast Electric and our broadband company, Coast Connect.
I know that it is. I mean, it's about finding your purpose, you know.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we were sort of lucky in our careers to have found our purpose. And I talk to people every single day on Coast Vue who found their purpose, and they set an example for us to follow. But there's so many more. There's thousands more, as former President Bush used to say, the 1,000 points of light. It takes that. I mean, you got all these, you know, formal nonprofit groups that are doing what they do, but then you have all these others that are just doing work in the community that fill in the gaps. And, you know, because we've faced so many disasters over the years, so many people have been inspired by their experience. Yeah. And have wanted to give back. And that's one of our, you know, I always say this, but buildings don't make a community, that people do. Our competitive advantage is what's in the whole heart and soul of coastal Mississippians, isn't it?
Amen. Listen, I couldn't agree more with that. You know, I'm not actually from the coast. I'm from Jackson. My wife is from Pensacola, but this is our home. And the reason it's our home is because people made us feel so welcome here. And really, it is what people from outside of Mississippi don't understand is the people is really the natural resource, especially on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Yeah. I love to talk to people, Ron, who came here from other places. And I've had a series of really incredible conversations about people who are from California or wherever and relocated here. And it's so cool the way they talk about the myth of what they expected to see versus what they actually saw when they got here. And what they saw when they got here was an incredibly accepting place, a place where people love each other. Hey, listen, man, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. There are always going to be. But as a general rule, at the heart and soul of coastal Mississippians is an incredibly accepting, you know, community across all of coastal Mississippi. And we care about each other. And again, I think it's, you know, because we're resilient, and the reason we're resilient is because we face so many challenges along the way. And when you face challenges, you get to the root of who we are as human beings. And at the end of the day, we're there for each other. And the majority of us get that. And that's the beauty of this place, isn't it?
It really is. It's a beautiful thing. I'm a Coastian. Even though I didn't grow up here, I will always be a Coastian. This will always be my home. Even after I retire, this is where Angel and I will make our home because it's home.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no doubt. So the Coast Chamber, you're the president of the Coast Chamber now, the chairman of the Coast Chamber. I talk to Adele Lyons all the time. What an incredible leader she is. My goodness.
She's unbelievable.
She does it. She is unbelievably committed. See, I got to work with Adele. First of all, Adele's very, very good friends with my wife. She goes back a long way with them. But when I was chairman of the Knight Foundation here locally, she was the director. Right. And we worked closely together, particularly after Hurricane Katrina. But, man, you are so lucky to have her as an executive director, aren't you?
Well, I am. And really, she makes my job so easy. The president's job at the Coast Chamber is, quite frankly, show up a lot of places and everything's done and organized. And she makes it a very easy gig. But I really have enjoyed it. I've been a member of the Chamber forever. I've chaired a lot of different organizations. I've never had an organization that I think was better run. Now, there are a lot of them that are really well run, but never one that's any better run than what Adele has done at the Coast Chamber. And look, we had a tough year last year with COVID, but the Chamber came out, really, really, first of all, the Chamber came out strong under Dorothy Wilson's leadership. She was the president last year, and Adele came out strong and really, pivoted quickly to virtual. And then they really set the table for me to be able to come in this year. And now we've had our annual meeting in person. We're back to, lots of in-person events, and it's really, really going well. And again, that's just her good leadership.
Yeah, the technology use has been incredible. They didn't let any dust settle on the adoption of technology, which in some ways will change the way the Chamber does its business going forward. There's going to be in-person. There's going to be continued use of technology. The other thing that really impressed me, and we can talk more about this when we come back after the break, is that when it came to federal programs, the Chamber didn't matter. It didn't matter to the Chamber if you were a member or not. If they were a place where people could go sort of, learn about what the programs were. And they didn't ask you, are you a member before I give you this information? They were just serving the entire business community. It was amazing to watch. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Ron Barnes, the CEO of Coast Electric.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and,
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
SuperTalk Mississippi. Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth. When you want the truth. Simply because it might hurt some feelings. And nothing but the truth. Lose some subscribers. You want the Gallo Radio Show. I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead. The Gallo Radio Show. And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast View with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast View. I have Ron Barnes, the CEO of Coast Electric, with me, and we're just kind of covering the spectrum. We're going to get in this segment into how's business at Coast Electric. But before I do that, you mentioned the annual meeting for the Coast Chamber. I was there. It was really the first big event the Coast has had of the business community since the pandemic. And man, it was truly unbelievable when you think about all of us coming together and really seeing each other face to face for the first time in a long time. It was awesome, wasn't it?
I saw a lot of joy, Ricky. People never really understand what they have until it's gone. And I think people for the first time were like, hey, it's really good to be back. I can't tell you how many people I heard from that day that said it is so good to see you in person. And, we've seen these people for, a year on Zoom or Skype or wherever. But to be able to see them in person was really something special. It was a sellout event, and we could have sold more tickets, but we were trying to be a little bit socially distanced. Still, really not sure where we are with the pandemic. So it was a great event. Great to be back in person.
It was really, really awesome. Okay, the last time you and I talked, we talked about your broadband business. We'll come back to that in a second. But okay. I've often said on this show that broadband probably is the single most significant thing we can do to overcome Mississippi's deficits, and we'll come back to that in a second. And then, of course, as it relates to Coast Electric, I want to obviously always get the latest on Coast Electric. But how's business in general doing for you guys?
It's booming. We actually were busier in 2020 than we were in 2018 or 2019. It seems like everybody in the world decided during the pandemic to build a house. So, before you can build a house, you got to have the power run to the lot or whatever. So business is fantastic, a little stressful on my employees simply because it's so fast paced. But, as I keep reminding them, it doesn't stay this fast paced forever. Take advantage while you can. But But business is good. Business is good for the broadband company, and it's excellent for Coastal Electric as well.
So, Ron, when I talk to the mayors, their employees, they're especially on the utility side, but certainly think about policemen and firemen. Most of the employees of the cities and the county were critical employees. They never could miss a beat during the pandemic. And then when I talk to people like Anthony Wilson from Mississippi Power and you from Coast Electric, your employees were really, really critical employees, and they had to learn to operate in the midst of the pandemic. And then, of course, we're in the midst of the pandemic, and then Hurricane Zeta hits. Right. So, my God, Zeta, especially, for all of us was a significant event, but it was especially a significant event for your delivery area, wasn't it?
It was. I said at the time that Zeta was the worst hurricane we've had since Katrina. I stick to that. It's now been upgraded to a Category 3. We had, power out in some areas all the way for a week. We had to bring in a lot of people from outside the area. And, there was a lot of real, fatigue last year from all of the different hurricanes across the region. It was hard getting people in here to work. And it wasn't pandemic related. It was just, they were spread out so thin.
Yeah.
But our team came together. They did a remarkable job, as they always do. They got folks' lights back on because we understand that, you can't get commerce going until the power's flowing.
Yeah. So I've had Josh Morganman, the top hurricane chaser in the world, lived in Hancock County in Bay St. Louis last year. He lives there again this year. The reason why is because he can't get to some of the other areas where typhoons hit. So he's going to be spending another year in Bay St. Louis. But he was in all the eyes that hit America. I think 11 land falls here in in the U.S. There wasn't a light event in any of that, man. They were all significant events. It's particularly from a utilities perspective. So I can imagine you guys have such a great system in place, a contingency plan for big events. And when you have a chain of big events back to back to back, you add to that the tornadoes that hit up in the center part on Easter last year. Good Lord.
We had ice that we sent to as well, Ricky. I'm pretty sure we sent our crews to 6 different locations in 2020, and then of course had our own event as well.
Unbelievable challenge. My goodness. You would think that, you think about the pandemic, you think about remote working and, people learning to work in a different way, and, they're doing pretty good, but not in your industry. It was all hands on deck.
Yeah, we really never shut down at all. In fact, we had a few employees that occasionally worked from home, but pretty much all the way through, we just, we kept working because we had to. Now, we did things differently. A lot of times we would box up materials for our crews, and then, they would come pick it up in shifts, so they weren't around each other, but and they weren't coming in the buildings. But other than that, it was kind of business as normal and pretty busy.
How was your overall experience just in terms of employees getting COVID?
So we did really good last year up until October. And then we had a few cases, and then December came, and I told our HR director who was handling this, Marilyn Sefton, I told her, I said, we're going to have a really bad January, and we did. So we got through January, and then we rocked along and didn't really have much of anything until 4th of July came, and we've got a pretty good, outbreak right now in some of our areas from the 4th of July. And listen, Ricky, I'm just going to tell you, I'm still very frustrated that Coast Electric is not any better than the rest of Mississippi in terms of the number of people vaccinated. We're about 35%, and we offered it to all of our employees. We brought Singing River Health System, actually came into our offices to administer the vaccines. I got my vaccines all the way back in February to be a leader. I understand why some people don't want to get the vaccine, but it's still frustrating. And then, it affects you when you have, 1 or 2 people get it and spread it around to others.
It is. It is. I posted something a few days ago on my personal Facebook page, and last I looked, there were nearly 60 comments. And what's interesting is there's a number of people that are still buying into a lot of conspiracy theories around all this, and they're spending so much energy trying to convince other people why they shouldn't get vaccinated. And what I think is, if you want to think that's your personal choice, do that. There was actually a really good study that came out recently that said the number of people that are undecided is relatively small. But because there is still a group that's undecided, I still spend a lot of energy on it because I think it's best to get it, because the Delta variant is extraordinarily contagious.
Yes.
And the vaccine is pretty effective against it. In fact, they're not recommending boosters related to that at this moment. So, the thing, and listen, when I have Dr. Conger on the show, the infectious disease doctor from Memorial, he says he's talking to a family who wants to try all these different drugs, these experimental drugs, because their family members on a respirator recently. And he can't help but think to himself, if only they would have taken the one drug that's not experimental, which is a vaccine, and we wouldn't even be here. And I don't know why we can't get people to see that. It's unfortunate. And
Ricky, I've got one employee. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a self-proclaimed denier, not so much of COVID, but didn't think it was really that bad, didn't need the vaccine. Spent 2 weeks in the hospital, nearly dying. He's now the biggest vaccine proponent there is. Yeah. But it's a shame that it takes that.
I know.
It takes almost dying before you understand that, this is not some kind of right-wing or left-wing conspiracy. It's just something that can save your life.
It is. We had a friend of the family die recently as well. Not going to mention the name. Several people in his circle got COVID. None of them were vaccinated. And he had a long fighting scenario where he ultimately, unfortunately, gave in to the disease. And, I wish we'd tell more of those stories. I wish families would come out and tell more of their stories, because, they can't do anything about the loved one who has passed, but they certainly can tell their story. And in fact, if someone hears this and would want to tell their family story, just reach out to me. I'd love to have you on Coast Vue to urge people to take the vaccine. The good news is that in the vulnerable class of Mississippians, we've done fairly well.
Yes.
But the fact is, when you're in the 30s in vaccination and you got a variant like the Delta variant that is incredibly contagious and deadly, moving so fast through our community, the July 4th incident you mentioned. Unfortunately, we're headed toward another wave. I don't know how significant it's going to be, but we are, and people are going to be touched by it that don't need to be touched by it. And we just have to. We have a solution. It's called the vaccine. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Ron Barnes, the CEO of Coast Electric. We're going to talk about their broadband efforts. Again, I think one of the most significant revolutionary technology things that the state of Mississippi can do to get us to improve our rankings. And we'll come back and we'll explain why we think that in just a second. See you after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever, with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Dale Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Ron Barnes, my dear friend. We've worked in the community for so long. He's the CEO of Coast Electric. He's also CEO of another company. We're going to tell you more about that in just a second. But as it relates to broadband, in the early stages of the bill being considered that ultimately established the opportunity for rural co-ops to get into the broadband business, Joel Carter and I had lots of conversations about it. And more recently, Joe Higgins, who's probably arguably one of the top economic developers in the United States, actually, from the Golden Triangle, he could not talk about how significant broadband is to Mississippi. If you wouldn't believe the terms he uses, that is his entire career of take all the projects he's done and add them together, and it's still not more significant than getting broadband into rural areas across the state. He's not overstating that, is he, Ron?
He's really not. And Ricky, the truth is, Coast Electric really didn't know much about, running a broadband business. It's not something we wanted to do. But when we began to look at our service area, we said these areas are never going to grow. They're never going to prosper. They're never going to get ahead if we don't give them the same basic service that you have in the city of Gulfport or Picayune or Biloxi or anywhere else. So we went out there and we learned. We got together with a partner and we went to work. And, I can say it has been a huge success. And we now have better broadband in some rural areas of Pearl River County than they have anywhere else in the nation. Fiber to the home internet. I mean, it's as good as it gets.
That it really is incredible. So so the bill enabled you guys to get in the business. Really, the federal government is going to spend, before it's over with, billions of dollars on creating broadband access in Mississippi.
Yes.
You created a new company. Talk about forming that company and what's your goal.
All right. So the bill required that if electric cooperatives are going to get into the broadband business, they had to form either a subsidiary or they had to work through a partnership. So we formed a subsidiary. It's called Coast Connect. It's a for-profit subsidiary, but any profits that eventually would be made go back to Coast Electric. Coast Electric is a not-for-profit, so ultimately that money would flow back to the Coast Electric members. So even though it's a for-profit, it's really a for-profit that benefits a not-for-profit. We're able to go anywhere that we want to serve this in Mississippi. We've chosen to start by serving Coast Electric members. We will also serve Mississippi Power customers. We're working on plans with our friends at Mississippi Power to take it to some of their customers because they're not interested in serving all the way into the home or business. We've now connected over 2,000 rural people, and I'm talking about really rural areas that we've connected to gigabit speed broadband, speed of light. And it's literally transforming. I can't believe how many people are telling us, I'm now able to have a home-based business that I was never able to have before. And I couldn't do it without this.
Think about the learning environment, think about what pandemic did. I mean, you think about not just the home-based business, but the opportunities for people to work remotely, to learn remotely,
yes,
to do their own sort of self-learning using the internet. I mean, so many. I mean, here's the thing: that for those of us who have access to Wi-Fi and essentially broadband capabilities, we take it for granted. We're doing this show right now using fiber capabilities. Kyle at his house, me at my house. We take it for granted. It's become part of who we are as a society. But the reality is that there's just so much of Mississippi that doesn't get to enjoy that. And if you think about how that connectivity changes our lives, whether it's in, offering us enjoyment of streaming services or documentaries or, to dive into learning about whatever it is you want to learn, not everybody has that. And the thought is that by providing that capability to every single Mississippian, no matter how rich you are, how poor you are, no matter where you live, that creating that opportunity to learn or work or whatever it is you need to do, once you have that capability, it's literally transformative. You'll be finding the next Steve Jobs or who knows what. I cannot overstate the possibilities as it relates to that. Can I, Ron?
Yeah, it's really pretty amazing. When this bill passed, we thought there might be 4 or 5 co-ops across the state that would dabble in this. There are now about 20 out of the 25 that have gone full scale. We started building in the most unserved and underserved area of the Gulf Coast, which is really north Pearl River County. Just to give you a quick story on that, we took Sally Doty from the public utility staff to visit one of our customers up there. And she turned to me after about 40 minutes of driving, and she was riding in the car with me. She looked at me and she said, these people would have never gotten internet without y'all. And it's absolutely true. So it's nothing special that we did. It's just something that needed to be done. That's what co-ops do, is we serve our communities. And we felt like that this was a way that we could serve our community really better than any other way that we could.
It's exciting to think about the federal government sending so much money down here, the Mississippi being focused on it, the legislature being focused on it, finding a mechanism through the rural co-ops, enabling you to form your subsidiary called Coast Connect through as a subsidiary of Coast Electric. It's amazing. It's amazing that I tell you what, 5 years from now, we're going to look back at this moment. This is one of the most significant economic development things Mississippi has ever done. That's how big this is. Ron Barnes, buddy, it is a pleasure. Always enjoy our time together. We should visit more often. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ricky. Always a pleasure, my friend.
You bet, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.